Okay, page 43. Chamishi, the synopsis of today's Chumash will be, Moshe teaches the Jewish people that after they settled the land of Israel and began working the land, God has obligated them to set aside a portion of their produce for the poor and to bring a tenth of their oil, wine, and grain to the temple city and consume it there. This ensured the people would regularly visit Jerusalem, which was chosen to be the temple city, in order to renew their spiritual inspiration. Okay, Chabez. Aser to aser. Tithe you shall tithe. Es kol tua sarecha. All the grain of that you plant. All the crop of your planting. Hayetzi asada shana shana. That is produced in the field each year. Chabez. Shana shana. Oh. So here's an interesting Rashi. It's really a Rashi of yesterday and today. He asks on the juxtaposition, you know what that means? The verses being near each other. Yesterday's last verse was about don't cook a kid in its mother's milk, which we know to mean really the source of don't cook meat and milk. And now it's on to another very different mitzvah of tithing your grain. Why? What's the... Typically, Rashi doesn't always ask, why is this next to this? But when it's so random and unconnected, sometimes he asks. So this is like so unconnected from one verse to the next. He's like, what does cooking a kid in his mother's milk have to do anything that you're segueing into you should tithe your produce?
Well, Moses
says the Holy One.
Chicken, so he might be kind of just straying generally.
I'm sorry?
Moses is no stray chicken, so maybe he's just kind of straying like the way older people do generally.
Oh, there's no spring chicken. Oh, but you know what I'm saying. So Moshe, so Hashem said to the Jewish people the following: Lo yisigmiru li lavashak doyim shotfua ad shehem b'mei maseyam. You should not cause me to ripen prematurely. So the connection is going to be a play on words. Literally, the term is don't cook a kid in its mother's milk. But if you want to play with the Hebrew, it could also mean don't cause me, God saying, don't make me come down there. Okay, don't make me cause to ripen. Vashel is cook, it also means to ripen. Don't cause me to prematurely ripen, not the kids, but the word gedi could also mean the kids of grain, the tender grain, while they're still developing in their mother's womb, in the kernel, in the husk. Because if you did not separate your tithes correctly, okay, if you don't give the meiser, the tithing of the grains, you know what's going to happen? I'm basically going to cause the crop to fail. Before it ripens, I'm going to bring a easterly wind to blow it down, blast it down. It says in Malachim 2, 1926, that it's a punishment that the crop should basically be getting beautiful, and then bam, before they're ripening, they blast down. The same idea applies to the first fruits. We see earlier that the Torah juxtaposed the prohibition of meat and milk to the obligation of bringing in the first time it talks about milk and meat, it connected. The next verse was about bikurim, the first fruits. What's the connection? Same idea. That if you don't do this mitzvah, which is really a safeguard for your assets, for your wealth, for your prosperity, you're going to bring drought, or you're going to bring blight, whatever you call it. That's the right word is.
Bad stuff.
You're going to cause a premature ruination of the crops. So tithing saves your assets. So tithe accordingly. I know a good charity. Just saying. Shana. Each year, from here we learn that one may not tithe from the new crop onto the old. So basically, let's say you didn't pay your taxes last year. You didn't give your tithes.
Uh-oh.
You got a whole silo of grain from the previous year. And now you have new grain coming out. So you say, I got to pay back. So I'll give 20% from the new grain and I'll cover last year. You can't do that. You got to give 10% from each crop from that crop.
From the old.
Old for the old and new from the new. You can't do old from new and new from old. Chav Gimel. You shall eat before Hashem your God. You shall eat before Hashem your God in the place where He chooses to establish His divine presence. You shall eat. This refers to Meiser Sheni, the second tithe. The Torah has already taught us to give Meiser Rishon, the first tithe to the Levi. As it says, you shall speak to the Leviim when they take the tithe from the children of Israel, and the Torah gave them permission to eat it anywhere, as it says, you may eat it any place. Okay, so this is where you need Rashi, especially. You always need Rashi, but particularly when you don't have photographic memory of all verses, you're like, what's going on here? So he has the photographic memory and can reference very quickly. If you read the verse simply, it's talking about tithing. And then it says, you again, what do you do next? You go take your produce, eat in Jerusalem or in the capital city, right?
Jerusalem.
You be the meiser degancha, tireshu terecha, the grain, the wine, the oil, v'cheres bekarcha, v'tzenecha, firstborn of your cattle and flocks, laman tilmad, in order that you learn liras Hashem lekecha kol hayamim, that you should learn to fear Hashem your God all the time.
Amen.
Wait a second. You telling me? I mean, face value. You can't eat your grain in Tzfat or somewhere else in Israel. You got to go bring it to no. So right, he's telling you this. This actually reframes which tithe we're talking about. The tithe that we're most familiar with, you give 10% to the Levi, to the Levite, that we spoke about elsewhere. Done. It's not here. And there it says clearly, you might say it's repeating itself, which it could do for extra details, but it says clearly there they can eat it wherever they want. So this tithe, whatever it is, can't be the same because the tithe of regular grain, you give 10% to the Levi, and that tithe, they have to eat, that tithe, it says clearly they can eat it anywhere. In Rochester, if they want. I don't know, maybe outside Israel, I'm not sure.
No, it's in Israel.
That's maybe in Israel, I don't know, it could be. But what I'm saying is, so what's it saying here? It says you got to eat a tithe in Jerusalem. That's very limiting. So this must mean another tithe. What tithe is that? That is the second tithe. What's the second tithe? For extra stickers for the students here, what is the second tithe vis-a-vis the first tithe? Anybody know?
10%.
You get a Rambam sticker if you know this.
10% of 10%.
No, that's different. That's Chumash Meiser. This is so you give. Let's say 100 bushels. For practical purpose, you got to give truma, but 10% to the Levi. 10 goes. You have 90 left. You got to give another 10%, which is 9, not 10 of the 10. It's the remaining 90. You got to give 10%. That's 9. that 9 is a second tithe. You did a first tithe, there's a second tithe. That second tithe, you have to go eat that in Jerusalem. Okay? Continuing, Chav Dalet, page 44, verse 24. If the journey is too far, that you can't carry all the produce, even let's say the 9%, the 9 bushels is
A lot.
Let's say it was not, it was 10 warehouses of grain. You got to eat 9 warehouses of grain in Jerusalem. That's a lot to carry 9 warehouses of grain, 9 trucks. So what do you do? So the Torah tells you got to do. So whether it's too far because it's going to spoil or that type of thing, you're going to. That you want to bring it to it's too far, the place that God will choose, which is a euphemism for eventually what was the capital city was Jerusalem, but I think before then it would be Shiloh, which where the Mishkan was for many years. For Hashem, your God is blessing, because God's blessed you. Oh, good problem to have. God bless you too much. You have too many truckloads of second tithe to bring down. What do you do? What do you do? For he will bless you. He bless you that there's too much grain to carry. They didn't have trucking back then, Chafei. You shall then exchange it for money. And you shall carry the money in a bundle in your hand. You shall go to the place, you go to the place Hashem, your God, will choose. Chavav 26.
So sanctify money. Didn't say it, did it?
Sanctify the money, yeah.
Didn't say it.
What is it? It doesn't say the language. Sanctify. You exchange it. You take the truckload. You sell it. That money, you bring the money.
Holy money. Isn't it?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I forget. You got to use it for.
You can use it for whatever you like.
Only there.
Right.
There's all details. The point is, it's designated money.
Okay.
For eating that equivalent of the truckload that you couldn't carry. You bring a little backpack of of cash, of wads of Benjamin Franklin's. So you can spend. Okay. Chav Vav, you shall then exchange the money for all your heart's desires, for cattle and sheep, for cattle and sheep, for wine and that's intoxicating, good wine, or anything else your heart may desire. You shall eat there before Hashem your God, and you rejoice with your household there. Sounds like you take the money, you take your backpack of Benjamin Franklin's, and you go buy a serious kiddush for your household and all your guests. So this is a cool Rashi now, because it'll shed light, Alan and Gary and Mother Dear, that we say before davening, we say the 13 laws or rules of extrapolation of the oral Torah that the sages used to analyze text and to learn halacha. This is going to be one of them. It's called klal uprat. Klal uprat means when you have a general statement, and immediately the verse then makes it very prat, very specific. It limits it to specifics. What that does is that now, I'm sorry, and then there's another prat, klal prat, klal prat to klal. Cloud, general, very inclusive. Buy whatever you want. You want to buy caviar? Buy caviar. Whatever. I don't care. You want to buy mushrooms? Buy mushrooms. You want to buy cigarettes? Buy cigarettes. It sounds like anything. Whatever you want to spend it on, that you're going to consume. But then the Torah immediately limits it. It says, you can buy some cattle, some wine, right? Well, wait a second. You just said anything. Why you give me like anything? Anything would include that. Why are you saying now two examples, specific examples? And then at the end, the Torah says, whatever you want, whatever I want, or does it have to be wine and cow, and steak? Like, what? So the answer is, it's a mechanism of learning the laws, the details. When the Torah does that, what it's doing is it's saying that the detail wasn't to say you can only buy steak and wine. It's saying that it's qualifying that whatever it said you could buy, anything you want, it's got to be a certain parameters, akin to steak and wine. That what? Just like animals, which the Torah so the way the Torah depicts the creation of animals, they emerge from the ground. Different than, whatever that means, you can speculate. The point is, that's different than fish that emerge from the water. So you couldn't buy fish. You couldn't have a fish kiddush. It would have to be animals, have to be from meat. Also, it says fit for human consumption. So now you can't buy cigarettes. You can't either buy slaves or servants with this money. It's got to be food for consumption.
Can't have lots, huh?
It seems like that. Whatever. It's the point is you could buy vegetables, you could buy grain, and you can buy animals, but you can't buy fish, for example. So that's what it's telling you. Chav Zayin. You must not, however, forsake the Levi. Don't forsake the Levi who's in your town. For he has no portion or heritable property with you. Chav Zayin. You must not forsake the Levi. Make sure to give him the first tithe. This is the second tithe. Don't forget paying up the Levi what he needs to live, because he has no other portion of property. So this tells us another law, that you only have to give the Levi food, produce that he doesn't have access to, because he doesn't have fields, because he's a Levi. He's a servant of the temple. Okay, but he does, there are other things that a Levi has access to, even without having a field. For example, poor man's, gifts, like leket, the ungathered stalks, the shikha, the forgotten stalks, peah, the corner of the field that's left for the poor to come take, hefker, or stuff that's ownerless. He has access to that theoretically. Those things he has a portion in. So what this means is, if a poor man goes and gets peah, which was a poor man's portion of a field, every field had to have a section ungleaned, the corner that was for the poor. Anybody can come, even a Levi. So when a poor man goes and takes, a bushel of, the free food, he doesn't have to give 10% to the Levi, because that's something Levi had access to as well. It's only things Levi has no access to that you got to give him. Everybody's got to give 10% from that, which is owned land and produce. Mm-hmm. Some more details it's going to tell us about the second tithe. At the end of every 3 years, the 7-year Shemitah cycle, you have to take out the entire tithe of your produce, Bashanahi of that year, and place it within your gates. At the end of every 3 years, you take out the entire tithe of your produce and place it within your gates. Mitzay Shalishim at the end of 3 years. This teaches us that if he delayed giving the tithe the first and second year of the 7-year Shemitah cycle, he didn't do it properly. You got 3 years is your deadline. You better get it done by then. You can't keep it in the house after the third year. Okay.
The third festival, right?
The third year of the Shemitah. When I forget when it is.
Okay.
If you want to know exactly, it's actually the eve of the Pesach of the 4th year.
Yeah, third festival.
Yeah. Okay. The notes here are really good, I have to say. Chaf Tes. Uva Levi Ki'in Lechel B'Nachla. The Levi may then come, for he has no portion or heritable property with you, as well as the convert, orphan, widow, and that's in your gates, your town. They shall eat and be satisfied. In order that Hashem, your God, will bless you. With all, to make sure you give the Levi and the poor, that they eat and be satisfied, in order that Hashem, your God, will bless you with all your actions that you do. It's for your benefit to give the tithe. You'll be blessed. Rashi. The Levi, if you're delaying the giving to the end of the third year, after the third year, the Levi comes and takes a lot of first tithe. Then comes the if it's the third, it's kind of
I was wrong. It was not the third festival. That was another thing.
Then the third the year, who takes the second tithe? You don't make a kiddush in Jerusalem. That goes to the poor. It's called Meiser Ani. So it's telling you that if it's the third or sixth year, instead of doing the second tithe for your own travel to Jerusalem, a kiddush, you have to give it to the poor. And they'll be satisfied. Here we learn how much you have to give of this tithe, enough to satisfy them. Rabbi said, don't give less than a half a kav of wheat or a kav of barley to a poor man at the threshing floor. But you shall go to Jerusalem with the second tithe of the first and second years that you've delayed bringing and make the required declaration. I have removed the holy produce from the house, as is stated clearly in the beginning and later on in Devarim Kisal Aser. Wow, we finished.